kids. How are you? You like the circus? You like the reviews of the It movies? Oh, you really like the reviews, don't you? Especially some that contain balloons. Oh, look at this pretty balloon. Look at the way it floats. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll all float. You'll all float. You'll all float. Ow.
The filming Daniel.
Got you there, didn't I? Scary.
No. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's just start over. Hey guys, it's Daniel here, back with new videos. And today is once again the annual
Halloween special video for the Filming Daniel channel.
Wow. Another year has passed already. I mean, we had Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, we had Poltergeist. So what have I chosen to review this year? I thought I'd make this a special day. I decided to review 2 movies for the Halloween special. I'm going to review 2 movies, 2 horror movies for today. But which 2 movies am I going to be reviewing? Well, they're both in the same franchise, and they're based on the same book by Stephen King. Because today, I'm going to be reviewing what might be possibly one of the most famous horror movie duologies ever, It. Yes, It. These movies, based on the original book by Stephen King, and this is definitely the second adaptation of the story after the 1990 miniseries from Tim Curry. And I thought, you know what? I haven't seen these movies in a while, and they are pretty good. Why not give these a rewatch? So, I decided to review both of these movies, and in this video, this first video, I'm going to start off with the first one. So today, guys, I'm here to review the 2017 horror movie based on the original Stephen King novel, It. So for those of you who don't know what It is about, It takes place in the town of Derry, a town that seems to be going through a little bit of a mystery in terms of kids constantly disappearing, but nobody knows where these kids are gone, and we follow a group of kids known as the Losers Club, led by Bill Denbrough, whose brother Georgie is one of these disappearing children. They try to figure out how have these kids disappeared, only to encounter a bit of a disturbing sight as they end up coming across a incredibly mysterious and terrifying clown named
Pennywise, the dancing clown.
And with a bunch of bullies on their tail, the Losers Club try to fight off against the bullies and some of their parents, who are not good parents. But in the middle of all this, they try to figure out who this clown is and how they can put an end to his terrifying, horrific reign. So many years ago, when I first watched this movie, I got really into it, and I might not have found it the scariest movie in this world, but when the movie first came out and I saw clips of it when I was little, I was scared by it. I mean, a clown that somehow is able to do all these things that regular humans can't do. Bit creepy, isn't it? But after rewatching this movie for this video twice now, I have decided that I'm going to try to give my full respect for the movie while also giving out my honest review. And what do I think of the movie after rewatching it? I still liked it. I still really liked the movie. Now, unfortunately, I do have problems with this movie. I really can't deny that. But in terms of like the heart of the movie, I think they display it in a very, very captivating way. So let's talk about what I love about the movie. In my opinion, the best thing about this movie, hands down, were the performances from the kids and Bill Skarsgård. Their acting was tremendous in this movie. I especially have to give loads of praise to the kid actors. The child acting in this movie is some of its best, to make these characters so sympathetic and so captivating to follow along. I feel like this movie definitely has like one of those group of kids adventure kind of movies. Films like The Goonies and Stand By Me. I really like those kinds of movies because it puts the little ones into a position of having to make it out of the situation and using their mind. And for me, at least, personally, I think I can connect it with it both it and Stranger Things, because, you know, I have that. But I felt that the child acting really worked. From like Jaden Lieberer, later known as Jaden Martell, as Bill, Sophia Lillis as Beverly, and Finn Wolfhard as Richie. Those three actors are fantastic, especially Jaden and Sophia as Bill and Beverly. These two characters, Bill and Beverly, I think are the strongest ones of the group, with Bill having a sympathetic mission of finding his brother, and Beverly dealing with her own traumatic things in her family that really affects her as a character. But when these two meet, and when all the group starts to meet each other, they both find confidence in growing as characters, with Bill accepting whether or not Georgie is gone or not, while still finding the confidence to be a strong leader of the losers, and Beverly standing up to who is probably the biggest one responsible for her trauma, that being her dad. And I think both of these actors did a fantastic job. And then we have Finn Wolfhard, aka Mike from Stranger Things, who you can't deny plays a very different role than he played in Stranger Things. Because in Stranger Things, Mike was kind of like a shy, awkward kind of kid. Richie, on the other hand, is loud, he cusses a lot, and he is definitely like the comic relief of both of these movies. And while I do find him to be a little bit annoying many times, I feel like he did kind of get in the way of some of like the character moments where he has to make a joke. Later on in the film, even though he's still making these things, he definitely goes in his own character flaws of like trying to stand up against Pennywise. And I think that Finn Wolfhard did a fantastic job with his comedic timing, but also his shocking and down moments as well. And even he can be very funny from time to time as well, because Richie is also a very funny character from time to time, and I think Finn performed it very well. As for the other kids, we have Jack Dylan Grazer as Eddie. I really felt sorry for him because he is kind of like having to go on like medication and has a bit of scared like sensitivism to horror things, and I really felt sorry for him. I felt like he didn't deserve to be put in these positions. We have Ben, who I also felt sympathetic for his storyline, and I think the actor did it very well. And I love that he is a very smart kid because he reads books, and he is definitely the biggest character that finds clues as to what exactly this clown is, and I think he performed that very well. But of course, we can't talk about it without talking about the one iconic character of both of these movies, as well as the entire franchise. Definitely one of the scene stealers of this movie, without a doubt, is the one and only Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Wow! He definitely nailed it. He definitely captured a very, like, supernatural, disturbing figure that haunts people around him, but he also manages to make it a very cheeky and silly performance because, well, he is the clown, so no matter what horror thing he's going to do, he's going to be a little silly. But I think that Bill performs Pennywise with so much passion whenever he's interacting with the children or interacting with other characters, and definitely makes the character his own and makes him a little bit more standout than the original performance by Tim Curry. Because in the original miniseries, Tim Curry as Pennywise, I did not find him to be scary at all. In fact, I honestly am shocked that he's kind of scares people, because he's kind of funny every time I look at him, although I think Tim Curry was like chewing the scenery and hamming it up, which I loved in that one. I mean, it's Tim Curry, so of course you're gonna do that. With this Pennywise, however, I think that even though he might not be the scariest, I think he's definitely one of the most disturbing, because he manages to convey a horrific tone, and I think that was very well. But the question is, do I find him scary? Well, yeah, hard to say, because there are a couple little moments where I did find him to be creepy, but only a few little moments. I think it's mainly the opening scene of the movie which gets to me with his character, because I won't give too much away, but the way that he does it, he's like so quiet-spoken and seems like he's very subtle about his intentions, but you know that something is off, and then when he suddenly does a big scare, it's very effective. But he doesn't really have that kind of horrificness throughout the rest of the movie. But that doesn't mean I don't find Pennywise to be a bad presence when he's not scary, because on the contrary, I think he is an incredibly fun and awesome horror villain. There's something like very disturbing about the way that he takes pleasure from tormenting and scaring these children. He's also very clever in a way of getting what he wants, because he has the power to transform into different beings that could reflect on a child's fear. What I really like about Pennywise is that I don't love him because he's scary. I love him because he is the biggest challenge that combines the characters of the Losers Club together, because the characters of the Loser Club are already dealing with their own traumas from bullies and disapproving adults. And with those two things combined, you put them together and you get Pennywise, who's right in the middle of it, that gives them the challenge as a group. I think that's what makes Pennywise such a strong horror villain to me, because he's both fun, but also there's definitely more to him, and I think that's what I really like. I love that he has ways of bringing the group together. But Bill Skarsgård, I thought, was fantastic in the role, and sometimes he's pretty scary, but I think he's definitely having a ball with his performance as well. And I think one of the biggest contributors as to why I think that this specific horror movie is quite special, as well as like an example of the kind of movies I love, is that they contain themes of like friendship, communication, dark traumas, and confidence. I think they really combine well with helping these kids through their journey, because they both have to fight a being that they've never seen before, while also dealing with their own personal difficulties with real life people, because not a single person outside of them in terms of Derry is trustworthy. So the movie does a fantastic job of making these kids feel like they're on their own, but they only have each other to back themselves up. So they might not have everybody in Derry's support, but as a group, they find support within each other, and it's their friendship that really drives the movie to its themes of giving people confidence. Because when you see someone that is in need of like advice or is dealing with a hard time, if you give them words of encouragement and show them that they're not alone, then they find bravery and confidence in dealing with their issues. And I think the movie presents it very well, especially considering that these friends are children, and it's something that you don't want them to see them deal with. You don't want them to like go through any hard times. You don't want them to go through troubles, but their friendship helps them to cope with those troubles. I love that kind of level of storytelling, and Andy Muschietti did a fantastic job directing these kids, directing Bill Skarsgård to be like the disturbing figure that brings them together, and the setting, because the setting of Derry is quite a good location. It's like, oh, it looks like just a normal town, but it also looks like a fun town, but we know the dark secrets that reside in this town, and I think that Andy set that up very well. And I'm not gonna lie, there were quite a few moments in the movie that had me in like a deep set of emotions. Whether it's Bill dealing with his loss of Georgie, whether it's Beverly dealing with her problems with her dad, and every time that this movie has a dramatic score, or a very like delightful score, whenever we see the losers coming together and having fun, or fighting against Pennywise, I think that that really shines in itself. We have one scene in the quarry. I won't give too much away, although it's not really that too big of a spoiler, but the losers hang out at the quarry in the water, and the music is literally one of the greatest pieces of music in a horror movie, like the Beverly theme, like do-do-do-do-do, that is fantastic. And the ending scene with the music is also amazing as well. And I have to say the second half of the movie is definitely where I feel like most of the best things in the movie come together. In the second half, from like the well house scene all the way until the climax scene, that is amazing. It has some of the best acting, having some of the best character moments and character progressions, and having Pennywise show up more often. And the climax was amazing. And when the movie concluded, I thought it was great, but it also set up something that would end up leading into It Chapter 2. Now, as much as I've been giving so many praises for this movie and can appreciate the heart that it's been given, there are many problems that I can't deny could not get out of my head when rewatching this movie. One of the biggest questions a lot of people are going to ask in this review so far is, okay, you've talked about like the emotional character depths and like the character progressions of the story, but do you think that the movie works as a straight up horror? Well, kind of, and not really at the same time. I can appreciate how the movie has like a horrific effect that you would buy a child like the losers would be scared by. And you may not be scared of it in real life when you're watching the movie, but you understand like the real meaning as to how it could affect the kids. And I really love that about the movie. But from a viewer as watching the movie, the film isn't really that scary for several reasons. First of all, it really likes to overload with having loud music in it. Now don't get me wrong, I love the score for this movie, and I love the score that's used for the horror scenes. But when you have a horror score that is like 10 times louder than the actual scene, and you haven't even gotten to the scary part yet, you do kind of feel like, okay, something is going to happen. Because horror movies can shock you, like it can build up to something bad is going to happen, but nothing does happen. But then it suddenly does, and it is very effectively scary. Movies can do that, but there's so many like loud music and bangs that go on in the background to the point where you don't really feel that much dread and tension anymore. And when we do end up getting to the scary parts, it does kind of lose a bit of the horrorness, because the movie is quite reliant on loud jump scares many times, and I couldn't count how many times I was like, jump scare in 3, 2, 1, ah. I feel like a good chunk of these scenes could be scarier if they were quieter and we hear the realistic nature of the atmosphere sink in. And if you wanted this movie to be like connective to what a real life child would be scared by, don't have loud music, because real children don't hear loud music in their life, so it does kind of back up on a bit of the word. And another thing that really derails the horror is the movie seems to use so many CGI effects to make Pennywise more intimidating. Some of them work, and some of them are like effectively creepy looking, but they do kind of look quite a bit fake, and over-the-top visuals doesn't really make for horrific moments. They just make the scenes more silly than creepy. Plus, Pennywise is constant, like, moving towards the camera every 2 seconds whenever he's in a scary scene with the kids. One of them is really effective because there is a scene where he does go after somebody in the sewers, and he does do that to the camera with sharp teeth and blood. That kind of does get under my skin a bit. But the other times he does it, I'm not gonna lie, a good chunk of it can be very repetitive, because you already are not scared of it anymore, but they keep doing it again and again, so the repetitive nature doesn't really help. Another problem I had with the movie is the pacing. I really like these characters, and I really love to connect with them, but particularly in the first half, and maybe a few points in the second half, a lot of scenes seems to skim by very fast, or are cut short. I don't know, there's something about it that I just wasn't really getting into, and I think that's one of the reasons why I don't find this rewatch to be as great as I used to be, because I felt like that the rushed pacing in a few scenes kind of like derails both the horror and also a bit of the character development. I mean, we do have a good amount of focus on Bill and Bev, but as for the rest of the members of the Losers Club, they're not given as much character like troubles and development as Bill and Bev. And I love Bill and Bev, they're my favourite characters in the movie. But I feel like I wanted to get to know and adore all the other members of the Losers, because some of them are kind of like thrown at the back and not as given much attention, particularly Stanley and Mike. Those two characters don't really have too much to do. I mean, I know there's like so many members, but I feel like Stanley and Mike could have had more screen time. Especially Stanley. There's a scene with him on his own where he deals with a Pennywise scare, and there is like another one towards the end which is very effective, but it came to the point where I ended up forgetting that he was even in the film, and because he was just a background character, and that's really about it. And the last problem I do have is that when you do have other characters besides the Losers that are given a bit of depth, it doesn't really come off as that unique, considering that every other character in Derry is a horrible person, particularly with Henry Bowers, because Henry Bowers is meant to be a very tough and aggressive bully, and I won't lie, he's a character that I absolutely love to hate, because I wanted to see this, like, selfish guy get his comeuppance. But when they tried to make him a bit more sympathetic, half of it works and half of it doesn't. What I do like about it is that you're not really supposed to feel sorry for Henry in this moment, but more taking the fact that the guy that gives Henry a hard time in this sympathetic scene is meant to be another example of poor company in Derry, and how roughness in adults can really affect somebody's well-being, which makes the poor victim a perfect advantage for Pennywise to use. I think that that is a very well done detail. But at the same time, when the other adults in Derry are being horrible people, having a tough parent isn't really that big of a involvement in tragedy. What I would have loved to see if we saw a scene like kind of what Stranger Things 3 did with Billy's character, where you show that Henry had a more positive parent figure, but then had to go away because the horrible parent was just too much for the positive parent to handle, and Henry was raised by the horrible parent. That would definitely give a lot more reasoning to kind of be a little bit more sympathetic with Henry's character. But I guess that's what they did, and maybe they did that in the original book, I don't know. But at the same time, it's really hard to like feel sorry for this guy, because the many things he does throughout the film, he becomes less of being a bully and more of a psychopath, especially the scene with Ben, which I won't give away, but yeah, you're not getting sympathy from me because he's an absolute monster and he deserves comeuppance. But anyway, guys, despite its many problems that I notice now on a rewatch, that I feel a little bit down because I wanted this movie to be like a fantastic movie, as I thought it might have been, I was still really touched by it. It is a very captivating and strong horror movie with great protagonists of Bill and his friends, amazing child acting, and a spectacular performance by Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. And I think that the cinematography is done very well, the score is amazing, and it really reminded me of many movies that I would like to see from this genre. I mean, I would definitely like to see more scarier horror movies than this, but with captivating protagonists that you really want to feel they grow a strong bond and feel confidence, while a supernatural figure is on the loose for them. I think that the movie displays that very well. Despite its problems, I still really appreciate this movie for what it gave me. And that's why I'm going to give the movie... what am I going to give it? I think I'll give it 4 1/4 stars out of 5. I definitely think it's a great movie to watch, and if you love the original Stephen King book, or if you love like movies like Stand By Me or Goonies, or horror movies that are kind of like this one, I definitely say give it a watch whenever you can. But anyway guys, I would really like to know what you thought of it. Really? That old classic joke? But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself a bit. I just did it again. But anyway, what do you think of it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And what is your favourite Stephen King movie adaptation? Let me know in the comment section below. So, that is my review of the first It movie. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about its sequel, It Chapter 2.
Till then, I'm the clown known as the Filming Daniel, doing movies, videos, and doing videos. Till then, Peace out, man.